Hi, welcome to Leap Taken. This is Mika, and here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things witchy, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. Um, Today, I'm going to talk about some crystals. More importantly, and I sort of want to talk about it in a way, I guess, that isn't always talked about. Do they actually work? Do they work in your spell work? Do they work for healing? What's the deal with charging? As far as not how to charge, but what does that process do? What's really happening? So I'll get into it. Um, how they work. Let me just go into that. So this here is a tiger's eye. It's in this little, I guess they call it a crystal cage. Um, it's a tiger's eye. I have had this for years. I keep this, typically, I used to keep it in our bedroom, but now I keep it in my purse. I've had it for a very long time. I keep this in my purse. I use this for the purpose of protection, and I also use it for grounding purposes. Crystals can have dual purposes, so that's what I use this for. But I love having this. This works for me, and I keep it on this little string. Sometimes I'll put it in the car and I'll hang it if I need to do that as well. But for the most part, yeah, it's more about just keeping in my purse for the purpose of protection. It's a way of having it on my person because my purse is always on me. I won't go through all the crystals that I actually own, but I just wanted to kind of use this as an example. So if you believe it's working, it's working. It'll work for you. As with any magic, it's all about your intent. If your intent is that it works, it's going to work. So that pretty much, the spoiler alert, that sums up how crystals work. It's all about what you believe. If you believe you feel the energy, if you believe that it's shielding you, protecting you, grounding you, if it's giving you love energy, if it's giving you good luck, if it's giving you protection, if it's amplifying or clearing or purifying, then that's what it's going to do. It's really that simple. It's all about your intent along with any magical practice. Now, there is room to ask, well, what happens if I give the crystal to somebody else and they don't necessarily believe the crystals work? They accept it, but they don't believe it. Will it work for them because they're not sure? If you believe it'll work, I believe it'll work. And it depends on what you're giving it to them for. Prime example, my son, years ago, when he was much younger, he had some nightmares. I gave him at the time a couple different crystals, some to keep under his pillow at night, one to keep on his bedside table, and said grab that when you wake. If you were to have a nightmare, hold on to that and feel the energy. I charge those crystals with the full intention to help him in that type of situation. Um, it's not necessarily nightmares, but just some bad dreams, stuff where it wasn't pleasant, it wasn't like horrible or anything like that, but it would wake him up. And it didn't happen all the time, but it happened sometimes, and he'd be a little shooken up. He was a kid, so that helped him, and it did help him. He liked having the crystals. He liked having them. It helped him. One would say it was a placebo effect. Maybe it was, but guess what? He used it, it worked, and there you go. So they were, from our point of view, they worked. Now, from a healing perspective, if I feel any sort of pain, physical pain, let's say menstrual cramps, let's say menstrual cramps, because that's a thing. So I will pick up something like one of my moonstones, and I'll pick that up. I might pick up two. I might have two in my hands. And what I'll do is I'll hold them, I'll put them on my stomach, on my legs, or just on my body somewhere. Sometimes I'll put them in my bra, and what I'll do is I'll just hold on to them or put them in the palm of my hands, and do deep breathing exercises. And the whole purpose is to steady myself so that the pain stops. And yes, that works. Does it work the entire time? Does that mean I have no more pain afterwards? Does that mean that I've somehow cured menstrual cramps? No, that's not what that means. It's treating a symptom. I treated the symptom in that moment. It can come back. I can do the same thing. Sometimes it gets so bad, you just take, some painkillers, and while you're waiting for the painkillers to work, you hold on to your crystals to get you through. So for me, it's healing that way. I think for me, moonstone is one of the most versatile crystals because I can charge it to do quite a few things, but overall, it's just such a, you know, for healing, for grounding, for calming energy. That's what I like to use it for. So I do have a rose quartz though, and the purpose of for me for using my rose quartz is more about, again, I use it when I'm doing any sort of self-care activity and I want to make it more spiritual, so witchy self-care activity. I'll pull up my crystals. Um, I recently did a beauty spell for myself. So, and I'm just calling it a beauty spell, but basically I clipped my ends. I clipped a good amount off my ends recently. So I clipped my ends, and the hair that I clipped, I burned it in my little cauldron. um, I made that witchy. I don't just clip my ends. So I clip it and throw it in the trash. No, I'm a witch. So I clipped my ends and I burned it in the cauldron, and I set a spell, and I had my rose quartz in my hand to get that love energy, that beauty, because to me rose quartz is beautiful. So I see beauty, I see love, and that's self-love, self-care, you know, when I'm doing a beauty spell. So it made sense to use that crystal. So it was sort of amplifying, giving me more energy to conduct my spell. And the whole purpose, by the way, of burning the hair is sort of like releasing what's old, what is no longer needed, and ushering in strong, healthy strands of hair. So yeah, I do spell work even on my hair. And to me, that's witchy self-care. So that's that. The charging component. So charging crystals. And you can charge your crystals in a couple different ways. Most people hear about, oh, it's, you know, with the moon. You can use the moon to charge your crystals. That's perfectly fine. That's great. I mean, that's the easiest, convenient, unless you need them charged before there's a full moon, or if you're charging them in a new moon, depending on your intent. That's when it gets tricky. So some people use water to charge them. You have to be careful. Some crystals you don't want to leave sitting in water. So you would bless the water first, and then you would use you could put them directly in a bowl of water or something like that, blessed water. Here's what I also do. When I lived in Florida, I have to figure out a way around this now. When I lived in Florida, I would go to the beach, and it could be day or night, but typically it was usually in the evening. I would go, and my husband and I, he'd go with me. And we just go out there, not to necessarily get in the water, but I told him I needed to charge my crystals. So I would go to the ocean with that late afternoon ocean breeze, the tide is, the evidence of just all this activity and energy of the ocean. So I would go out with my crystals, all of them, and just have them open up. I usually have a cloth or something and just spread it open and just let that ocean breeze blow over. I would petition the ocean goddess at the time where I was at. I would, petition her if she could lend her energy to purify and charge my crystals. I would meditate, and when I felt the time was right and that they were charged, we would typically leave. So that was the thing I would do, and I would do that at any point. But I would also go during a full moon to the ocean. So I missed that. So now I'm going to have to figure out something as far as outside. I live near mountains, so I guess I can go in the mountains. It's been so hot here in the summer. I never got a chance to really explore outdoors, so I believe that mountains are just as majestic and mystical and full of energy. I mean, it's a gigantic rock and we're talking about crystals. So I feel like the mountains are just as majestic, hold so much energy, and I just need to tap into that. I just got to get to a mountain. So once I figure that part out, I'll go to the mountains. Oh, excuse me. I was eating something right before I started. Anyway, so that's the deal with charging. One other thing when it comes to charging, you can actually just go ahead and use yourself as a conduit and charge your crystals. You hear me out. Raise enough energy. How you raise that energy is up to you. It could be dancing. It can be clapping your hands. Any sort of movement where you're raising, even if you're just doing the sounds, or some sort of chant, and you're adding a little bit more energy to the chant, that would count. You can definitely use that as energy raising, or sing a song, or whatever. Like I said, whatever you want to raise energy. Once you have the energy raised, pick up your crystal or crystals. I would probably, in this case, since I was the conduit, do them one at a time, or a handful, just a small handful. And you can speak your intentions into the crystals as you hold them. This is something you want to take a lot of concentration on. You want to see the energy, maybe see it as, red fire, something blazing hot that's coursing through your body, and you are directing it through your body to your arms, out through your hands, and it's going into the crystals. See that. Concentrate on that image. Concentrate on that imagery in your mind until you feel you've taken all of that raised energy and it's now in the crystals. See the crystals glowing bright red, like an aura around them. Once you have completed that, put the crystals down and consider them charged. I like to always remember, I am the one working the magic. We can petition a goddess, we can petition a god, we can petition the ancestors, spirit, what have you. We can do all these things all at the same time. But ultimately, it is your magic, and I tell myself that is my magic. I'm not waiting for a spirit or entity in another realm to make it happen for me. I'm asking for them to lend energy to make it go faster, to make it, be a smoother process, or, whatever the spell or charm or working I'm doing, where you're wanting to get that extra energy. But ultimately, you're driving this magical ship. This is your deal. This is you. So it's your magic. It's your spell. It's your working. It's your crystals that you're charging. They carry their own energy. All you're doing with charging and all this raising energy and all this other stuff I'm talking about is basically finding a way to tap into it and amplify it. You're making a connection. That's what you're doing. You're making a connection with the crystals, and so that they become usable for whatever purpose, so that you can just hold them in your hand and feel the healing energy. So that you use them in spell work when you put them on your altar and you have a money candle burning. Maybe you put the crystal in the money candle for prosperity. For protection, you might want to put a certain crystal, all around your house for protection, and they've been charged, and that's for that point. That was the point, to charge them and have them ready to go. You put them all around your house for protection, let's say every corner of your home, along with some salt. Now, once you've done that, once you've put your crystals in place, I have one in the car, my husband and my daughter's car, for protection and for safety. Once you've done that, there's a matter of, do you charge them again, or are they set for life? Do you need to charge them again? It depends. I would say it depends. If something is in another location, a car perhaps, you don't need to go hold the crystal in your hand and recharge it every, lunar cycle. You don't have to do that. You can, but you don't have to. What you can understand is, for instance, I think my daughter keeps hers, she has something like this also, and I think she just hangs it in her car. So what you can do is have a positive intention, let's say during a full moon cycle, and you have the crystals, let's say you're charging your crystals that you're working with, you're standing in a window, let's say you're not going outside because it's cold, I understand for some people. So you're standing in a window, you can, feel the moon's rays on you and the crystals. You put the crystals, let's say, in a glass bowl on the windowsill so they can have the full moon charge them. So that other crystal sitting in the car, so you would just put that in your mind's eye, even though it's not physically right in front of you, it's in the car. That's also getting charged with the full moon energy. It can go through the glass, the breeze, just like it's going through the glass, the window in your house. It can go through the glass in the car and charge it. So that's one way to look at it. As far as the crystals around your house, let's say they're in a corner on the floor, again, in your mind's eyes, I would probably, in my case, I know me, I would want to open my blind so I can see the moon or go to the door, however I'm going about it, somewhere on the property of my home. I need to see the moon. And then in my mind's eye, I can see that energy being charged, even though it's not directly in the moon's rays. Ultimately, you want to put it in there. It's a little bit more easier to recognize that it's being charged, but otherwise, if you don't want to remove them from the place that you have them and they're strategically placed around your home for a protection spell, and you don't want to turn that off to recharge them that way, you can go about it that way. Also, like I said, raise the energy yourself, hold it in your hands during that time after you've absorbed the moon's energy, and then you can go to each stone at each section of the house and charge it that way. These are just a couple ways to go. Like I said, a little bit more unconventional when you're talking about crystals and charging and how to use them and all that sort of stuff. I think they're perfect for boosting spell work. Not everybody consults a deity in their spells or their workings. Not everybody, or their spiritual path for that matter. For years, I did not, excuse me, I did not institute a god or a goddess at all. So crystals and things like that, as far as a magical boost, is perfect for that purpose. Excuse me. Yeah, it's perfect for that purpose. Sorry. Also, before you even started working, you might have dedicated crystals for grounding. Tiger's Eye is also great for grounding. I may have said that. Or my moonstone, I use that for grounding. It's perfect for that, for getting yourself in the mind frame to do any sort of working. So you might want to spend some time holding it, doing deep breaths, and grounding yourself. If you have quite a few crystals, you can set up a nice little circle and put yourself in it and put the crystals here, I guess where your third eye would be. And you can put them on your heart. You can put them on what your womb is, if you're a woman. Put it there and just surround yourself that way. Maybe have some in your hands and just do cleansing breaths. This is obviously something you need to have time for, but I tend to get a little extra sometimes, so I'm capable of doing that myself. But yeah, you can do that in the middle of your floor if you have the space. You don't have to have crystal, in a complete circle. It could just be a few spread out, but in a circle around you, encasing you, and just, carefully picked for the purpose of what your workings are, or for just the purpose of grounding and protecting. So that's always an option as well. And by the way, that's something you can just do as an act of witchy self-care to just ground yourself and sort of cleanse, purify. So you're looking for crystals that would be known to be for purification purposes, or if you want to amp yourself up, you want something that does amplification, excuse me. I don't know what's going on with me today. So like clear quartz or something like that, that's a good one. Purification. I can't remember what it is, but look, this is, you can go to Pinterest and find this sort of stuff. But when you go into, this is my next point, when you go into a shop, if you're lucky enough to live near a shop that sells crystals, when you're picking out crystals, you might see people doing this. They'll just keep picking them up, holding them and putting them down and trying to find the right energy. I did this initially when I first started when I first started shopping for crystals. I remember I was told to do that, so that's what I did. And sometimes something just felt right and I went with it, and it was fine. But what you have to understand is you're in a store, so the lady before you did it, the guy before you did that, the people handling the merchandise touch them, and so they may have imprinted energy on them as well. So just know that if you get into the store and you're trying to use this method and you're not getting anything, there's a lot of energy swarming around. So give yourself a little break and just pick what, ultimately, just, you have to go with a gut instinct. Don't think about it too hard. Just pick it up and say, okay, this is the one. You're going to cleanse it anyway and then charge it. So don't worry about it. So there's the actual energy the crystal is emitting, yes, but you can imprint your energy on it as well. That's what I was talking about earlier. what intentions are you using for the crystal? You put that into the crystal. That's why it's great to use in workings. Like I said, if you're not connecting with a specific deity and you're doing witchcraft and you're making spells and charms and amulets and whatever else, and you'd like to boost a boost of magical energy, use crystals. As opposed to petitioning a god or goddess, or if you don't work with the ancestors because you're not there yet. I wasn't always there. It took me a while to get to that point to make it, for lack of better words, believable in my brain, in my own mind, the whole concept. I think I'm a skeptic generally, so I'm all in because it feels right, and I feel like I have proof. I've had supernatural things happen to me that can't be explained more than once, and then somewhat on a regular basis. So, yeah, and I've had shared experience, so it's not just me being crazy. So there's that too. But yeah, crystals are, I love having crystals. I'm actually in the market to purchase some more. Now, I don't know exactly where I'll go here. I have not found a store yet. I looked online. That's not fair. I looked online, and I did see a few stores. But I'm probably a snob when it comes to going to some of these stores. I have all these unnecessary conditions. First off, I miss Florida because this type of stuff was easy to get to. There was a store that's pretty much just sold crystals I could get to. I'm sure that exists here. I'm sure it does. I just gotta find it. But I miss having access, and it was very close to my home. I miss the botanicas that I could go to, where I can get, herbs and, floor wash, floor water, all that sort of stuff, and everything else that you would probably do with hoodoo. I do miss that. Now, I know there are some here, but because it came up, but I was like, is that really a botanica or is this something else? Because sometimes people label things and that's not what it is, and I couldn't find a picture online. But I'll see. But I need to go shop. I don't know if I would ever buy crystals online. I guess, I said it earlier, you're going to cleanse them and charge them anyway. So I could do that. If I was to purchase crystals online, it would be from a mom and pop. Like, a fellow witch who's selling crystals. That would probably make me feel better. Rather than, just going to Amazon and some company that says tumbled rocks or whatever. I would purposely look, even if, let's say she's getting it from there, I don't know, but I feel like the witch's energy, I'd rather purchase them from her. Or him. I shouldn't just be like that, but him or her. So yeah, I would definitely decide to go with the Etsy or something like that. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to talk about on crystals. Yeah, just use them in your spell work, use them for healing, charge them as often as you feel you need to charge them. There is not a predetermined rule that they have to be charged every lunar cycle. So don't worry about that if you're not doing it. If you don't feel like they need to be charged, then don't worry about it. And you can use them in your candles. I mentioned that you can put crystals, depending on the crystal. But yeah, you can put, I think most of them can handle. I don't know of any crystals you can't put in a candle, but you can put it in your candle for the purpose of, charging, again, giving you that energetic boost to your spell, your candle magic. So thank you for watching. I am Mika. This is Leap Taken. If you enjoyed the video, be great if you liked it. And if you really, really liked it, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, thank you very much. Comment how you use crystals if you're interested, or if you know a good place to buy crystals online if I have to go down that road. So thank you. Bye.